gave a talk once before from a new book called Becoming Yourself. And Becoming Yourself is, for many of us, perhaps all of us, have read Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And for those of us with gray hair, it came out in 1970 and rocked our world. There had been nothing like it before. There were plenty of books about Zen. Alan Watts famously, and D.T. Suzuki, much more scholarly and academic. There was Zen poetry out. There was actually quite a lot written, but there was nothing that actually struck us like Shunryu Suzuki from the San Francisco Zen Center. His talks were short, they were not academic, they weren't philosophical, they didn't rely on concepts and lists, all of which are great. We use those things, but they were just about direct experience. And Mel Weitzman, Sojun Mel Weitzman Roshi, who died recently, was, I think, Suzuki Roshi's first successor. He and another fellow dug up another bunch of talks from back then and published it as Becoming Yourself. And they are as good. And when I say that, maybe I should say they appeal to me because they're lean that way. Because you don't have to look in your Pali dictionary to translate stuff, to understand what's being said. But most profoundly, what Suzuki Roshi is trying to tell us in every one of his talks, and take this to heart, you may not feel it. I'm not big on believing in stuff. I'm more of a science kind of a guy, like I want to experience it. But it might be worth just trying this on, taking it on faith. Suzuki Roshi is trying to get across to us that everything we need to understand who we are, how we fit into this world, our interconnection, our constant changing, all of it, everything we need, we already have. It's right here. I know you don't believe me. I don't believe it. But I'm taking it on faith that that's true. And I know enough from my teachers over time to feel like that's a safe bet. So we just practice. And so I'm just what's beautiful about these is they're short. I'm gonna read one of them. It's about a page long. They're like little nuggets. Well, for those of you, I won't make hallucinogenic references here, but for those of you who know what that's about, they're like little bombs. And they're simple language, and you can read them 5 times and they just continue to open up. From Becoming Yourself. And this particular one is called Including Everything, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. I'm not going to just let him have the floor. Including everything. And before I read it and before I talk about it, I want to point out that he used that ing form of the verb. He didn't say include, which sounds like instruction or like direction or teaching or a command. But when he says including everything, to me that strikes me as if that's happening. And it's just happening. He doesn't say including everything is the right way to go. Including everything is the path to enlightenment. He just says including everything. Our way of sitting is for you to become yourself. Katagiri Roshi was one of his students who led the Minnesota Zen Center for years, and it's still going strong. And then came to Tassajara. Katagiri Roshi always says, to settle oneself on oneself, to be yourself. And most all of us have heard the Dogen expression, to study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be enlightened by the 10,000 things. But what is the self that he's talking about? When you become you yourself, at that moment, your practice includes everything. And we'll talk about this word everything too. Whatever there is, it's part of you. You practice with everyone in the future and in the past. That is our practice. But when you do not become one, when you do not become yourself, it doesn't happen in that way. When you sit, you're sitting with everything, including animals and inanimate objects. The Soto Zen founder, Dogen Zenji, said that if your practice doesn't include everything, it's not real practice. You may think that after practicing for a long time you will attain enlightenment, and that then your practice will include everything and everyone. One day, if only. If I really work hard, if I'm a good boy, I come to a lot of sessions, then my life will include everything and everyone. But actually, your practice already includes everything. If you think that in 2 or 3 years after your practice improves, then your practice will be perfect enough to include everything. That's a mistake. Something is missing in that understanding. This is my favorite line in the essay. The sincerity is what's missing. Let's think about that word. When you practice forgetting yourself, forgetting where you are and how long you've been there, then your practice includes everything. When you say, I practice Zazen at, I'm going to change it here, at Eon Zen Center, I and Zen Center are extra. You are limiting your practice by the idea of Eon Zen Center. Or my practice. When you say my practice, the practice is very small. When you say Eon Zen Center, the practice is very limited. When you forget all about those kinds of ideas and just practice, then at that time your practice is perfect. And it includes everything past, present, and future. That is the point. There's some inscrutable stuff in there. We're practicing with everyone, past, present, and future. Do you believe it? You experience it? I want to keep this short because so far this retreat has been really deep. We started off this morning at 7:30 and you could hear a pin drop in here. And there were, 28 people? Something, 27 people. So I want to be careful and not disrupt that. In everything that he says in this talk, my feeling is Suzuki Roshi is being literal. He's not exaggerating. He's not being metaphorical. He's not, saying something to get our attention. He's literally describing how things are. Now, that's not my experience all the time. That I'm practicing with everyone, past, present, and future. But we keep going. He's talking about sitting with everything, including everything. Are we sure about that? Let's try this on. This is an easy one. Everything. think of someone in your life or something that's going on, hint, hint, or a place, or somebody's attitude that you're not very happy with. I got a long list. How do I include that? Do I believe that I should even try? Some of us don't. For some of us, the Zen thing is kind of a sunny day practice rather than a rainy day practice. But when someone's trying to end American democracy, can we include that? And how do we do that? He said everything. I won't name anything here. Yes, sitting with that too. How does that feel? Just close your eyes for a minute and conjure whatever it is that comes up with you that you really don't want to include. And just try on feeling what including it feels like. And we're not going to have a discussion here about this, but if we were to go around, some of you would say, but I'm okay with it. It feels okay. And I would say, bullshit. It doesn't feel okay. It feels terrible. The point is not that it feels good and that you kind of gloss over that there's difficult stuff in the world. I'm the executive director of Zen Peacemakers, and we take 50 to 100 people to Auschwitz-Birkenau for a week every year. And if anybody, in the retreat says that, that was good, something's up. Something's wrong with that. You can't be good in the face of that. So including everything doesn't mean I'm cool with it all. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to go do something about it. This sort of feels like the first two tenets of the Zen Peacemakers, which we use here too. The first two tenets are not knowing, which is the mind that you all are cultivating here, sitting here today. Strong back, soft front, empty mind. Quiet mind. Not knowing. And the second one is bearing witness, which means we look at this stuff and we don't turn away. Maybe for the last years of my life, I get to look at American democracy being destroyed. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to look, and I'm not going to look away. And it doesn't make me feel good. And maybe that's how I include everything. Maybe including everything is that bearing witness. But lest you think this is a pathway to passivity, there is a third tenet, which is taking action. We won't talk about that today. As some of you know, I'm a poor but average writer. I try every once in a while. A weekend or two ago, I wrote 8 words. And those were, what if the answer to everything was yes. Cousin's counting for me. What if the answer to everything was yes? And it was actually before I read this talk. Maybe I was channeling it, I don't know. But I gotta tell you, and I published this on Substack, maybe on Facebook too, I got some pushback. I got some angry pushback. I'm not saying yes to racism. I'm not saying yes to anti-Semitism. I'm not saying yes to misogyny, you know, child abuse and stuff. And I didn't respond to any of these because it's not my point to get into an argument. But the yes part is including everything. Like it or not, those things are happening. Saying yes to it or including everything does not preclude doing something about it. But if our doing something about these horrible things in the world is based on us denying that they exist or having tried to push them out of our awareness, our action is not going to be clean. I think. These are just my opinions. Including everything. In linguistic terms, this feels like in practice what we're doing is we're removing the subject and perhaps the prepositions. And we're left with, Sigmund help me, with gerunds, I guess, is what they are, right?
ING form?
ING form acting as a noun.
Participles.
Like sitting, talking, listening, breathing, thinking, including.
Present participle.
My mom was an English teacher, I can't call her. She's dead. It didn't work out for her. Suzuki says, when you practice forgetting yourself, then your practice includes everything. What you all are doing here today is practicing forgetting yourself. Like Sensei reminded us this morning. Every period, every minute, every breath, every moment. Your belly rises and your belly falls. The inside of your nose gets cool a little bit as the air comes in. And as you exhale, perhaps you're exhaling into your hara, you let go and relax. And then we do it again. And we do that intently. And if we do that intently enough, there's no room for Geoff. Geoff can take a hike. He encourages us to let go of the idea that if we practice long enough and well enough, then we can realize this, including everything. If only I had something, or if only I was younger, if only I didn't have to walk with sticks, if only I had some more money, then I wouldn't have to work and I could practice more, then I could include everything. Except for having to work. And being a damn cripple. And getting old. I wouldn't include those things. I don't want that shit. He says, when we believe that something is missing, when we believe that something is missing, and he called it the sincerity. I called that out when I read this, because it's such an extraordinary choice of a word, sincerity. Like, I really mean this. How do we know when we're sincere? I spent a lot of my life thinking I was kind of a phony. And then I wasn't very sincere. Another word that I use in that place is authenticity, but not everybody relates to that. But I like authenticity because it feels like, you know, it feels pure or sincere. Chocolatey goodness through and through. You know, just solid. Solid. What's missing is the sincerity, is the solidness, is the I'm committed to this. And this is all I'm doing. And I'm doing it with my whole heart and, you know, every bone in my body. I get that feeling of wholeness or solidity. Or perhaps it's this word we use of suchness. Suchness. What is that? It's right here. We're all feeling it right now. Just this. Just this. Include everything. Just this, just as it is. No because. No before. And here's the real hobgoblin. No why. Why is this happening? I don't deserve this. Because it's happening. No preferences, no aversion, including everything. So I promised to keep this short. I don't know if I did or not, but that's as good as I could do. Thank you for listening. I hope this helps you practice a little bit. We've got 3 more sitting periods and a service and a closing circle for the rest of the day. This opportunity, you'll never have it again. You'll have other retreats, I'm sure, but not this one. It's yours. Make the most of it. Thank you.